You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 722 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and the Murdoch Method. On the show today, we're talking to Ohio dressage trainer Karri McFadden, who has made a successful business of finding and training horses for amateur riders. After that, Wendy Murdoch talks about hay soaking, and then Markowski is back with a trainer tip.
This is Reese Goffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, hi, Phil. How are you this week?
Busy. Busy.
Yes.
It's a move-in day at the horse show. I'm really lucky to have an international dressage show happening 5 minutes from my house.
So cool.
But I had to go to the barn this morning, so and I like to be early. Yeah. So that actually saved my butt today, because I left for the barn at a little earlier than my normal time, and then I barely got out of the driveway, and I discovered I have a flat tire. So that was not the best start to
the weekend.
to my weekend or to the day or whatever it is, but yeah, I mean, you just deal with it, right? You just, okay, well, I'm going to be a little late. I'm going to, just let everybody know and problem solve. And between Meredith and I, we problem solved the flat tire. I took her car and, blah, blah, blah. A lot of car changes today, but whatever, you just roll with it, right? You try to get done what needs to be done. And then, come on to the podcast and get that done. And and then I'm going to finish this and then go back to the horse show grounds just to do a late night check and all of that. And so, I mean, it's a busy life, and you have to be able to kind of roll with it, and stuff happens, and tires get flat or horses go lame or throw shoes. I mean, those
it happens to everybody, doesn't it?
Typical things. Yeah. So, I mean, a flat tire is not, in the grand scheme of things, not that terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that was interesting. I was listening to a podcast today of, it was last week, and I was talking about, being envious of someone or jealous of someone. And they were saying, actually, social media, you get such a small view of what actually happened. And it's a targeted view, right? It's a very targeted view of what's going on. And when you look out, and that's what they were saying, is you need to expand your view. And when you get to know someone a little bit more, you and I laugh about that kind of stuff all the time. And sometimes you don't see that on social media, or you don't know that happens. And it happens to everyone. And I don't care if you're a professional or an amateur rider or whoever. It's such a challenge.
Life
sometimes.
Happens. Yeah, life happens. And, I just said a few cuss words and moved on with my day. I think that's the best advice I can give, is just, never give up and just, learn to change your plans or be flexible with your schedule and carry on.
And how did all of everybody school?
Yeah, it was, I always say hot, because I think that's a relative term, but
it's hot for you guys. Yeah, of course, it's summer for you guys.
Certainly very humid. We have a storm rolling in right about now.
Yeah, we
could get tornadoes. So, I don't think there was a rider there that felt their best, or were looking their best through through all the sweat that was happening and the horses. But I mean, you gotta. Again, just roll with the punches and make a plan for the next day, and just say, okay, well,
hydrate.
I think, hydrate, and in the best interest of the horses. You're not going to do, 21 lines of ones. You could just do your best.
Yeah, do it. Get a few.
Yeah, if you get a few, that's fine. Certain movements, you go to a show, but you're still kind of training them, and not everything is going to be perfect, and you have to accept that going to the show. And don't take it out on the horse, because that's not fair. That's not fair.
Came up for me. We also have a horse show here this weekend. Same, also our local show. We only have a Saturday, Sunday show. It's only a 2-day in the summer, because it's hot, and 3 days in the summer is too much here. But so everyone's been getting ready this week, and I will say that I went to a local group that I go to very frequently, and I had a couple riders I don't see all the time, and they're coming to see me for the horse show, and a couple of them, not gonna lie, like, aren't ready to go to the horse show, or weren't ready on Wednesday, and the horse show Saturday. And I said that to them. I said, hey, one entered, it was pretty aggressive on the entry, and she entered a first level and a second level class, and I just flat out said, like, if you can't run through the test on the Wednesday before the horse show, it's a little aggressive. Maybe you want to, and I think that's important to know, it's, you got to remember that when you go to horse shows, you really should feel comfortable with the test, right? And you should really feel like I think it's unconscious competence, right? That you can ride through that test, and you can roll through it, and you can make adjustments. And the horse I'm riding, I feel pretty comfortable. I did third level test 3 with this horse a few weeks ago in June. And he likes to know what's going on. It's kind of that horse. He gets confidence in knowing what he's supposed to do. So we've been working a lot on that, and just rolling through the test. And I actively roll through that third 3, once you do your half pass, they know the flying change is coming. So I do change it up a little bit. But I like that feeling that when you go to that horse show, you feel very comfortable with your test. So do remember that. I know sometimes, especially this time of year, like, oh, if I can just get one more score to qualify for regionals, then I can work on it. I get it. I do. But I do have a rule that when I enter, you have to be able to ride the test when you enter. And certainly if the week before, and one was a mare, and is in heat, and, things could change a little bit, but it doesn't give you good feelings for the horse show. And I think that's always good to remember, that really a horse show is to show off what you know and what you do. And you want to be able to do that. And I think that's an important thing. So, but we will see. I'm actually just hauling into this particular horse show, which is nice. I'm just showing one horse, and he's pretty good now off the trailer. But we are going to go tomorrow. We're going to go school. I probably could get away with not doing that, but I'm going to sleep a little better to get him there, and just make sure I check my preparation box. And, it may just be, it's in the stadium. He's been in there before now, but we'll go and we'll go check it out, so that when we go for the show on Saturday, again, you want to feel confident. You want to feel like you can ride. You want to feel like your horse feels really confident. And I think that's important. And sometimes you have to look honestly, like, can I get this done, for the date of the regional finals, that there's a certain cutoff per region. It's coming up soon. And I think ours is mid-August. So there's only so many tests and school and shows left, but yeah, something to think about. So we're also looking forward to it. We've got quite a few horses going, but at the horse park, most of my horses, we all just haul in. We have a nice little trailer group, and the horses are pretty good about it. So I'm looking forward to it. We're having a storm coming in tonight. So it's supposed to be cooler for the weekend, which will be nice. So yeah, we both have horse shows. So we'll have.
All right. Yeah. Good luck to you. And
good luck to you guys too. I can't wait to hear all about it.
Yeah.
And we have a super show tonight. We're going to get right to it right after this break from Kentucky Performance Products.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
Did you know that easy keepers and horses on restricted diets are often at risk for vitamin and mineral deficiencies? Most easy keepers are maintained on hay, and some get a few handfuls of grain a day, and most of these horses get little to no green grass. Diets that don't include significant levels of green grass or recommended amounts of fortified concentrates just don't supply enough vitamins and minerals. Many horse folks don't realize that hay alone, even high-quality green hay, is not an adequate source of many vitamins. For example, when grass is cut and dried for hay, the vitamins quickly lose their potency. 70% of the vitamin E found in grass is lost in the first week after it is cut for hay. One way to ensure that your special needs horse is getting all the vitamins and minerals he needs is to add a vitamin and mineral supplement to his diet. A well-balanced supplement will provide the nutrients your horse requires without adding unwanted calories, starches, and sugars. Microphase, made by Kentucky Performance Products, is a vitamin and trace mineral supplement that bridges the gap in your feeding program. With Microphase, your horse receives adequate and balanced vitamin and mineral nutrition without unwanted calories or other ingredients. The minerals in Microphase have been chelated, a process that protects minerals during digestion and increases their absorption in the intestine. Microphase provides vitamins such as vitamin E in a natural form, so your horse receives optimal results from this supplement.
This Nutritional Minute has been brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. You can find all of their terrific products at kppusa.com.
Well, tonight I'm so happy to have a colleague of mine, Karri McFadden. She's an FEI rider and trainer from the Cincinnati, Ohio area. Karri, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you. And you and I, whenever we work horses together, it's so much fun. So I wanted you to come on the show because I have a lot of respect for you. We've gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. And one of the things that you do beautifully is develop horses for your clients or for the adult amateur market. And we wanted to talk about it. I wanted to bring you on to talk specifically about that. So that was a long intro, but first of all, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I've been, live in Ohio. I'm in the Lebanon area, so I'm kind of between Cincinnati and Dayton. And I am here year round. I have a place in Aiken, so I go to Aiken in the wintertime. And I have, a small training business. I try to not have too many things in the day because we all have family and friends and, other household responsibilities. So I try to keep my training program reasonably small so that I can kind of get to everything and have some sort of balance. It's kind of a joke sometimes, but we try. So I do, some riding, and then I typically have clients that I try to have them ride their own horses as much as possible. But oftentimes I'll do the initial training, or I'll help them find a horse, or I'll have a horse, ride it for a while, and then sell it to them because of I don't know, I guess just the type of horses that I think are appropriate for adult amateurs. I think are oftentimes overlooked by trainers. Maybe it developed initially just out of a necessity. I rode horses that I could ride, that I could afford. And so, I always look for a good temperament and straight legs. My husband is an equine vet. So, that all of that kind of stuff matters. And anytime you do training, you want to definitely be able to not devalue your training by some medical finding, in a pre-purchase exam. So I guess I've done it. We tried to make a list at one point how many times I'd done it with different horses, and we lost track.
Yeah.
So I always have like a couple that are going, and some I keep, and some I kind of let the horse dictate what's the right thing for the horse, and then eventually it gets sold to the adult amateur market. Is that a long explanation or what?
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean there needs to be a lot more people like you out there who are. It sounds like you're not developing a lot of horses for yourself, but at least there's a market for those safe amateur horses that maybe aren't the fanciest horses, because everybody wants to do all the professionals
exactly
I want this fancy horse that I'm developing for me, and then maybe I could sell it, eventually, or whatever, and then then there's not someone to buy that fancy horse, because if you have 10 years into it or whatever, yes, it's a valuable horse, but it's not the value in the horse is not as a prospect anymore, so.
For sure.
Then,
I think temperament is the most important. for that, because any horse I buy that I want to put time into, I want it to have the capacity, to have the type of temperament that could be an adult amateur horse. They oftentimes aren't when I get them. Sometimes, like I have three that I own now currently. One I started as a 3-year-old. I got it from a breeder. That's one that's probably going to be mine, and I'm going to kind of ride through a bit. And I've done it different ways. My family is, our last kid just graduated high school. We have, in college, and, families change, life changes. And I just kind of, just a la carte what makes the most sense at the time in our life. And so, there's times I've kept him for years. I rode a PMU draft cross to Grand Prix, and then I sold him. And then he went on to do, 75 or 100 Grand Prix after that. And so I had him for years, right? Like 3 or 4 years. And I got him as a 5-year-old. Occasionally I get him and I have him a few months, and, somebody comes along, or this would be perfect for this client. So I always just try to make sure that the temperament of the horse is solid and they have 3 good basic gaits. And I think that's non-negotiable for me. If I get one that I feel like needs extra, I don't want to ride crazy. I don't want to ride. I prefer a little hotter horse sometimes than, a lot of times amateurs would want, but I think that's also trained into them. Reactions can be trained in. And so most typically, amateurs like geldings. I oftentimes, kind of go that direction. Sometimes I have mares, but a lot of it is about, just trying to create a product that I'd want to be shopping for as a trainer. Because when I go look for that for clients, it's really hard to find anything that's ridden well as, in their basic training. And for me, I feel like if the horse doesn't learn to balance when it's young or when it's newly introduced into the sport, because sometimes they're not 3 or 4, sometimes they're 5 or 6, or a horse I have now, I bought him when he was 7 and he didn't know anything. But I feel like if they don't learn to balance when they're young within their body, you chase that the rest of their life. And a horse that felt that balance at a young age, even if I have clients after, I turn them loose and we're doing lessons and whatever, and maybe they need some help. If it's a horse that was ridden well when it was younger, it's easier to retrieve. You know what I mean? It won't take, it's not like the horse never understood that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think you do a great job with that, finding that young horse, because the young mare that you have, she will be a really lovely amateur horse. Right now, she's not so much. You keep saying she's your heart horse, and I think she is, but she also, she loads on a trailer. I've seen her in multiple different locations, and she's such a lady. The behavior's there. Right.
I think that's the whole part of the package. I train them to self-load on the trailer. They go to, when I was younger, I went to way more horse shows. I'm not as interested in that anymore. I still go. We do it. We have fun, but it's not as much my focus, more of the training and all of the background stuff. I want to make a solid citizen that has a really good skill set to offer to, a little lady that's going to buy him and give him cookies and brush him and, do all of the fun little cute stuff that they deserve. And I feel like, if you put the right time and energy into some of those horses, and I'm not even breed specific. I've had a multiple of lots of different types of breeds. Right now, everything I have is a warm blood, but that's definitely not always been the case. Oftentimes I've had things that are crosses or odd crosses, and they've gone on to wonderful homes. And I really enjoy, the last horse show was at the Pony Cup a few weeks ago, and there were 2 horses that I got to see that I had sold to their owners, and they absolutely adore them. And I get to see them and watch them, enjoy that. And for me, that's very fulfilling to be able to be a part of that. And it's a service to the horse and to the people, I feel.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, if you have a horse and that, you're selling to your own client, it's going to be in your own barn. The sale has to make you feel good about it, there's a lot of trainers out there who bring in horses and turn them around and sell them. And there's not a lot of integrity in sales. Barns or that
absolutely,
kind of thing.
Or they can be that way. Not always, but it definitely can be a factor. And I'm an open book. Like I want people, and they'll call, when I post something or put something out for sale and I'm kind of think that the horse is getting ready, they'll ask for something and I'll send them videos of everything. I want the buyer to have as much possible information because I want it to be a good fit for them too. I'm an open book. Like I'll show them everything, but I also am putting out a product that I'm pretty solid about. There's not like, well, it does this when it goes that way, so I'm going to kind of downplay that. I just don't do that. I can't. It's not in my nature. Like I'm a really honest person. I tell you too much probably, but that way at least everybody knows. And then, the horse benefits from it, the riders benefit from it, and everybody's on the same page. And it's fulfilling. I do enjoy it. I love bringing them along and finding what I feel like is the right match for some. And some of them, I'm like, I'm not quite ready for this one yet. I'm going to keep it for a while. And so I just keep going. And so sometimes I get, the horse into the FEI ring. And sometimes it's been a way for me to, help pay for some college expenses for my kids and that kind of stuff. So it does fluctuate a little bit with our life, I think, as it should.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, what's interesting, I want to talk a little bit about pricing of these horses, right? And not specifically your horses, but I've once heard that the best investment you could make is a pre-St. George horse, because somebody like yourself or me or Philip or whatever have put the time in, and I think that's important to say because this is not cheap for you, me, or Phil. Like it is expensive, and of course it's a business. But can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's important to remember. I think people are like, oh, horses are so expensive. Right. Well, when you do some math,
exactly. And do you know why? Like I say to my clients all the time, upper level horses do not make themselves. Like somebody did that. And if it's not you or me helping you do it and me, supporting you through that, then somebody has had to spend all of the time. And then our own education is expensive. And I don't ever want to stop learning. I spend way more money on lessons and clinics than I have on showing in recent years because, you have that, you have your own expenses of caring for the horse, and it is expensive. Somebody has had to put all of that in there. And that's why like the ones that are super nice and they've been trained well, my clients typically can't afford them.
Yeah.
Because that's a 6-figure horse as a young horse. You know what I mean? Like it's just such an expensive, but they know what they have because it's been ridden well. It understands it's in the shape, the balance, all of it is so good. Oh, and by the way, the temperament is gorgeous, all those things. But like that is a product that, is available. But I think, and those aren't the ones I go after because that's not the normal market. Like that's not the mid-range market where people are mostly buying. But I think too, I train all of them with the idea for Grand Prix, and that doesn't mean, so if it's learning, changes, I'm typically already training half steps because I find sometimes people too, they get so stuck on like, I want to do third level, I want to do pre-St. George. And you're not kind of inputting those little, just all of that important stuff about like, not the young horses classes where they move big and huge. Like that doesn't really help you later.
Right.
They have to develop, the idea of carrying power and collection and all of that kind of stuff. And so if you have that in your mind as you're going, I think you can kind of sort through and figure out what's the best scenario for some of those horses. But the ones that are super nice and they've been trained well, they should be expensive, in my opinion, because you're buying a product that is a quality product.
Well, and I love what you said. I mean, I think that's, it's tough when you've trained, all of us on this call have trained several horses to the Grand Prix area and zone and Grand Prix. So once you sort of, and that's again what you're paying for, like we've trained horses. So when we say, hey, do this downward transition like that and put this in, it's because we have done it. And we know that horse carrying its hind legs and getting quick behind or doing half steps, right? How important that is at the end of the day.
The way that I've also kind of look at that, and look at these issues is, I've been down the road of making mistakes. And so, when I train the next horse, I'm not going to make that mistake. And then maybe that's what you're paying for. I mean, there's a million different perspectives, but
I just want to put I would like to personally apologize to all my old horses,
right?
Because as you learn better, you do better. And but that's part of it. Like that's part of the learning and the growth process. And I don't think we ever should stop learning or growing in terms of this, because there's always more to learn. You think you know, and then you look behind the curtain and there's some magical thing that happens and you're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. So I still get, kind of surprised sometimes when horses offer like amazing things like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes our job fun. And
I think it's different. And I think it's obvious when you have like a training level horse. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but you have a training level horse that's being ridden by a training level educated rider. And then you have a training level horse that's being ridden by a rider that's ridden through quite a few more levels. And they have this, just volume of experience that they're drawing on. That automatically shapes you, and the horses are ridden differently. And I think when I was, way younger, I didn't understand that. I'm like, how in the world? They just bought the whatever, but they also have the experience to know some of the mistakes they've made and how they would do it differently or not. And you just can't have that without going through that. Like nothing teaches you like experience does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to say what I was trying to say, but just kind of in a more polished way. That's so true. And you don't know until you've done it, until you've been through it and you've made mistakes. And
it's okay to not know, and it's okay to say you don't know. And I think that is very like almost taboo at times. Like everybody wants to have an answer for everything, and it's like, it's okay. I want to be softly puzzled by something because that's going to push me to figure it out. That's going to push me to look for an answer. And I'm not, me, Reese, I don't care. Like if I do something wrong, like I'll make fun of myself. Like I get it. Everybody does stuff that isn't right. And so when I'm teaching too, I'm always trying to say, look, I'm telling you this because this is how I talk to myself when I'm up there. Like we're all in the same, a really great rider still loses balance. And, just like a training level or like a rider that doesn't have as much experience. I don't mean to dog on any training level riders. That's wonderful. That's how everybody starts. But it just really, I don't know. I just think I lost my train of thought.
I completely agree, and that's part of this. And that's part of why, when you're a trainer, sometimes I think people are like, sometimes a trainer looks at something and maybe they don't know, you don't know why, it's like when we go horse shopping, I send it out to all my friends. I'm like, okay, this is the horse I like. I'm going to send it out, and I have several people that, Phil gets every video I see of every horse. And I want his opinion. And sometimes I don't like his opinion. And I'm like, whatever,
but
Phil.
It's still valid.
But he's looking after me, and he has his own perspective of what he likes and what he doesn't, at all levels. And I really listen to him at young horses because he has more knowledge than I do, really. And so I think it's important, right? We as trainers, everybody on this call, right? We use each other and we learn and we listen, and that is part of this. And so when you pick a horse out of a field, you may look at that person and be like, you're crazy. Like when I pick,
I've gotten that a lot. Trust me.
You're like, but there's a feeling you get, and I looked at Big Mike when he was a gangly, yucky looking 4-year-old. And I was like, he's going to be a star. And even my mother was like, what? You bought that? Like, seriously, that one? I'm like, oh, it's going to be a star. You wait. And now he's beautiful. And you look at the horse.
I love that. And I love rooting for an underdog. I love it if people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, you just wait and watch. It'll be fine. Just wait, And I take horses that don't, and then it's like, oh my gosh, that's now happening. Like that. I love that. I love taking something and making it more beautiful, more useful, have more utility, have more, function, more satisfaction. The horse gets proud of himself. Like you get to be a part of that. And, we had 4 kids between the 2 of us. And so, that was a big part of, my life growing up was like nurturing those kids and teaching them, life skills and all that kind of stuff and watching them with their successes and their failures and just trying to help support them and guide them. And it's very similar with the horses. It's just, they have 4 legs instead of 2.
Yeah.
And they can't actually talk, but I can see something, this horse, or they just have such a great temperament, and, like that could be something really neat. So.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Karri, I think you're inspiring to everybody. And I think, the way you pick your horses and the way you methodically go through and you have a plan and you have, support when you need it and bouncing ideas and that kind of stuff. I think it's really awesome. So I'm so thankful you got to spend some time with us tonight. And if our listeners, yeah, I know, I told you it'd be fun. I told you we just talk about horses on the podcast. I love it. Well, Karri, how can our listeners find you online if they have any questions?
The best way is probably Facebook. I don't really keep the website up anymore. I just found it was a little bit of wasted energy. So I'm on Facebook, and that's probably the simplest way because my contact information is on there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. That was super fun.
You're very welcome. It's nice to meet you guys.
Especially with performance horses, flies can really be a nuisance. Fly predators are a great investment. Of all the different poisons and insecticides and different things you could use, I don't know of anything that is more economical and more effective than Spalding fly predators.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have our favorite monthly guest, Wendy Murdoch, on the show. Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Where in the world are you today?
Oh, it's so surprising. I am home.
What?
Oh, that's rare. That's really rare.
Yeah.
I bet you're working in your beautiful garden. You have the most beautiful garden. Because I follow you on Facebook and I watch your flowers and I'm like, how does she do that? It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's true. Now that I'm home, I actually just spend time in my garden and I really love it. And it's going through a big change because I had to move so many beds, but it was so dry, but it's doing really well. And the echinacea is beautiful. And so, yeah. So I feel like I might catch up this year.
I know. I love it. Well, so Wendy, actually, we're kind of, we're in the dog days of summer and there are so many people in the country that are dealing with, no offense, Philip, Canadian wildfire smoke. Is real and humid temperatures today here. It was so humid. It felt like it was going to rain all day. And we wanted to talk about the benefits of soaking hay because it's a real thing right now. It's really needed and for sure here. So
yeah, it's so interesting that so many articles have come across my feed lately about the importance of soaking hay in these kind of climates. And so the thing that people need to realize is soaking hay can be really helpful in the smoke situations, in the high heat and humidity. And, sometimes horses just don't drink enough, right? Or they can't drink enough. And so by soaking your hay, you actually really improve hydration. I have Sharon White is a top event rider, and she has been soaking hay for her 5 horses using the hay soaker now for over a year. And I just had a dressage barn that had 1 soaker, and they came back and bought a second one because they love it so much and they want to be able to do that. It's so efficient that they want to do it. It's up in Massachusetts, Iron Horse Farm. Yeah. And so, but the thing that's really important right now is with all this smoke and everything, high temperatures and heat, making sure your horses are well hydrated is really important. And that's where soaking hay can be so beneficial. And of course, everybody goes, what's the difference between steaming and soaking? Well, soaking is actually soaking. Steaming dampens the hay. It's great for allergies. It's a different function than soaking. And with soaking, I think it's like 30% increase in absorption of water. Like it gets the sugars out. So if you have your insulin resistant horse, your compromised horse, metabolic horse, you get the sugars out, but at the same time, you're getting the hydration in. And I think that's where it's so valuable. It's, and really you only have to soak for 30 to 60 minutes. People are like, there are research studies talking about how the effluent from soaking hay is bad, but that wasn't a 24-hour soak, and nobody soaks their hay for 24 hours. You're fermenting it at that point.
Yeah, so, and it gets gross anyways. I was just going to say, it's nasty.
Yeah, right. And I saw another one that talked about soaking for 3 hours. Really, you only need to soak between 30 and 60 minutes, and so that'll do the trick. And of course, with the hay soaker, it's so easy because the timer, you just load it, set it up, hit the button. It's automatically pre-programmed. It fills, soaks, and drains. So you just walk in, you feed the hay. It's kind of a product that I've had that's been kind of like low on the radar because I've been so busy with the whole rider and Surefoot and everything else. But, it's suddenly come to the forefront because of the weather conditions that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. And it's super easy once you get it set up and going. And Wendy's amazing at doing that. Cause let's be real, everybody. I'm not technology. I'm not very
you're
technology.
a little bit of a technophobe.
Yeah, I am.
Yes.
I'm really weird. I once I know how to use it, I'll use it, and I'm great with it. But and so Wendy came in and set it up, and it's delightful. It's so easy because we have one that we soak for, and it's great. So Wendy, tell us, a little bit about the product, because I like the basket, and it's designed that it's just enough to feed. Like, it's really good. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the product, it's called the Hay Soaker, and it's a tub that holds, it depends on the how densely packed the flakes are, but anywhere from like 4 to 5 flakes of hay. And the reason being, actually, I didn't design the product. I met the woman who designed it, and she had family and everything, so she let it die basically. And then I found out about it, and I picked it up. And then of course my husband redesigned it so that it was even better. But they did build one to hold a whole bale of hay, and you couldn't use it. It was just too big.
Yeah.
So like with this barn, they've just bought a second one. So you basically, you load the hay in, you either have a basket or you can use a hay net. And if you use a hay net, we have a rack that goes in the bottom. And the really cool thing about this is it doesn't require any electricity other than the batteries to run the timer. So it's, you can take it, it's on wheels, you can take it to your shows. So if you're going to a show and you want to make sure your horse is getting sufficient hydration, you can just, pop it in the trailer, set it up. It just runs on a hydrant. And then the timer is my favorite thing, because you can program it to like start at 6 o'clock, soak for an hour, and drain at 7:03, and then you walk in and it's all done. It's like having another person in your barn, and literally that's what they tell us, that our customers tell us. It's like having another person in the barn, because you don't have to watch it, you don't have to, manage it, you don't have to lift heavy out of a muck bucket, trying to lift the hay out of a muck bucket, because it's drained. And when it drains, because it's working with water pressure, it's like a suction. The hay is really well drained. It's not soggy and drippy like so many when you soak it.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is normally you're soaking hay and you're just making a big mess.
Yeah. No, that's the beauty of this thing. It has a 21-foot drain hose, so you can either drain it into your wash rack or drain it out to your garden and water your garden, so you're not wasting the water. The water's fine because it's just soaked hay, and anything in that hay is what you're feeding to your horse anyway. So,
right. Yeah, no, it's so true.
Yeah,
no, it's a great product as always. Wendy, you come up with the best products because you're a horse person and you're a horsewoman, and you've been in every barn and you know how it works. And I think it's really, really helpful. And so I think it's a great idea, especially in this type of weather. And no offense, Phil, you can keep your smoke.
Smoke.
In Canada.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's really bad.
It's probably way worse in Canada. We're complaining, but it's probably...
we were getting it the other day, and today's not so bad. And but it's just between the heat and the smoke, across the country, the weather's been really horrendous. So
right, exactly. It's been tough. Well, Wendy, as always, you're amazing. Can you tell us, has the safari filled up? Because I'm wondering if this is still my spot. Oh.
Yep, we're going on safari. We're leaving in September. It's full, but there's talk about doing one next year in 2024. So if anybody missed it for this one, stay tuned. I'm working on setting up a system to make it really easy for people to sign up for early interest and let them know what the deal is and everything else. So, and I'm working on dates. I don't have dates yet, but I'm working on that. So if in the meantime, if anybody's interested in going on safari, just send me an email at wendymurdoch.com. That's WENDY at WENDYMURDOCH.com, and put safari in the subject. And I will have you on the early interest list, and I will get things. I'm working on it right now. I'm working on a bunch of things right now, but anyway.
I love it. Well, if you see Reese at Horse Radio Network, safari ! For 4 lines. That's me. Well, as always, Wendy, we love it when you come on. Thank you so much for all you do and for your great ideas. And also, this is a really good one. Tips for people with horses.
Everybody, if you want to look at, we have a website for thehaysoaker.com, that's THEHAYSOAKER.com. And you can also find it on the shop at the Murdoch Method. You can find out more about the Hay Soaker. And we do have videos. We do have a Facebook page, Soak Hay on Facebook. So you can go check it out if you have any questions. And, like I said, we have video of how it works. And the people that have them just absolutely love them. And so, just think about that for the health of your horse.
Love it. Thank you so much, Wendy, as always.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Even Even under the best circumstances, travel is stressful for horses. We've all been there, stuck on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. You can make the journey knowing that US Rider is there for you. Get peace of mind on the road with US Rider's nationwide 24/7 roadside assistance coverage for both you and your horse. Join today at usrider.org.
Well, for this week's trainer tip, we have Canadian dressage athlete Maya Markowski on the line. Maya, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you guys?
We're great. So what is your trainer tip for this week for our group?
My trainer tip would be, and I'm always telling this to my students, is to never get bored training the basics. The basics for any horse and rider combination are so important no matter what level you're working on. Every horse and rider's journey is different. There's no set timeline, but I do find that constantly focusing on the basics really helps riders develop their horses properly. You know, a lot of movements, even if you're in the Grand Prix, are demonstrating a lot of the basics, just in a higher degree of balance, and a higher degree of collection. I love training the basics. I do lots of transitions and straightness work and constantly getting creative with exercises for that to really strengthen the horse. And I always go back to those. If I'm finding a movement is challenging for a horse or for one of my students, it's not generally the movement I find that's the challenge. It's just something that's missing in the basics. So I always go and revisit, the rhythm and the straightness. So for me, that's a really important tip that I keep in mind, even training my own horses.
Yeah, I think if you don't like riding the basics, then you're not gonna get better at riding like the tricks. I call them the tricks. Flying shit. Like everybody loves training, like doing the tricks, but I think it takes kind of 5 days of doing basic work to every day. That's the ratio I kind of think of. I'm in my own horses. 4 days of doing the basics and 1 day of training tricks or riding tests or whatever, the fun stuff. Because if you're missing basics, the rest of the things are just not going to work.
No, and then you just keep kind of hitting the wall trying to make that flying lead change happen when, it could just be something like the rhythm's not there, the horse is taking over. And then you just keep repeating and it just gets more frustrating. So I think it's really important to go back to that and just revisit those, for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and Maya, one of the things that I also do is I work with a lot of eventers and show jumpers. So I flat a lot of show jumpers now too. And truly at the end of the day, that's my job, right? Like they're going to go on the weekend and they need to go as fast as they can and turn as fast as they can and jump as high as they can. But my job is to work on the fact, like, can they turn left pretty easily? Same with my event horses, right? Can they turn left and stay relaxed and stay supple? And so I don't really care what sport horse discipline you're in. You're going to have to work on basics. And I think you got to own that and know, and not just be like, oh, I'm working on basics. Yeah. You know how many transitions we all do on our upper level horses? You're going to but what you need to think of instead of being like, oh my God, I have to do transitions is like, I can make that transition a little better. I can make it a little faster because I'm going to need that transition for my piaffe to passage transition. Like that's where I'm, and I've got a big guy right now. I'm struggling a little with the piaffe passage transition. You know what we're doing? We're out on a hill and we're doing it on the hill. And Big Mike sees that hill. He's like, oh no. And I'm like, oh yeah, buddy. That's where we are, right? We are walking that hill. We're in Kentucky. The weather's gorgeous. Oh, buddy, it's time, right? Because that is the basic question. So it's not the movement. It's the fact that we're not pushing. So you know what I got? I got a great hill. So I think if you struggle with that as a rider, you should really kind of own this tip and refocus your mind of it's not just you. It is literally all of us at every discipline. You better own the little details and own those transitions. So I love it. I think it's just a great way of reframing it.
Well, and also I think for longevity for a lot of these horses, to go correctly biomechanically is really important. That they are using themselves properly. It makes for a much happier, sounder horse in the long run as well.
Yeah, 100%, because that is where horses are going to get unsound, and they're going to have sore backs, so they're going to have whatever. So if we can make these things better for them, I think it's phenomenal. So I love this tip. This is a great one. So Maya, how can our listeners find you online if they have any more questions for you?
They can find me on Facebook on Equest Dressage, Instagram, also Equest Dressage, and my website is equestdressage.ca. And then they can learn a little bit more about me on the website, see what I'm up to, meet all my horses, and they can see on my great list of sponsors, Southern Equine Distributing, AVR Saddles, Kunkel Equestrian Gloves, Tapestry Comfort Girth, and Ogilvy Equestrian are all on there.
I love it. Well, thanks, Maya, and good luck this summer.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, as always, everyone, we love email and Facebook shout outs. If you have any questions, send them our way. But also, we love to hear about your success and how your horse shows are going and your maybe funny stories. Phil's tire was not funny, but definitely.
In retrospect, it will be
now it's funny.
Next week, probably when
next week it'll be
sorted
funny.
out. And just keep going, guys. Just keep going. Keep your chin up.
Well, we love it. Well, as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our page at horseradionetwork.com. Search Dressage Radio Show. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products and the Murdoch Method. If you'd like to support our show and the Horse Radio Network, you can do that through the auditor program found at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you in a couple of weeks.